Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something many in the UK feel quite strongly about Old World red wines and why they're just so consistently popular.
It's a great topic. We've got a couple of sources here. One gives a market overview, Vinos Tintos do Velho Mundo Populares no Reino Unido, and the other, A Paixão do Reino Unido, brings in a sommelier's perspective.
Right, so we've got the big picture and the expert view. And our mission really is to understand this lasting fascination. Why these specific wines?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? The UK, an island nation, has this, well, incredibly developed wine culture. And this leaning towards old world reds, it's not just a fad, it feels much deeper.
Deeper how? Like history and...
Exactly. History, culture, maybe even a sort of ingrained appreciation for, complexity. And that connection to the place the wine comes from the terroir.
Okay, so let's start where a lot of that history begins, I suppose. France. And specifically, the giant in the room for the UK market, Bordeaux.
Oh, absolutely. Bordeaux's influence is huge. It's not just about taste. It's a relationship built over centuries. Trade started it, but then it became this deep appreciation for Bordeaux's quality, its ability to age.
Which the British historically really valued, right? Collecting and cellaring.
Precisely. That aging potential has always been a big draw for collectors here. It's fundamentally shaped what many British drinkers look for in a red wine.
Okay, but Bordeaux isn't just one thing. Our sources split it, left bank, right bank. Let's tackle the left bank first. Medoc, Pauillac, Margaux. What's the key takeaway there?
So the left bank, think gravel soils, perfect for Cabernet Sauvignon. This means the wines generally have more structure, more tannin, that sort of grippy feeling.
Right, the stuff that helps them age.
Exactly. They're built for the long haul. Medoc is the wider area. Then you get into specifics. Pauillac, powerful, really concentrated, built to last decades. It's home to three first growths, Lafite, Latour, Mouton Rothschild.
Wow, okay, heavy hitters.
Definitely. Margaux is often seen as more elegant, maybe more aromatic. Chateau Margaux, another first growth, is there. Saint-Julien often finds a nice balance between Pauyac's power and Margaux's finesse.
And Saint-Estèphe.
Generally makes more robust, quite tannic wines, ones that really need time. And the Haut-Medoc is a good place to find slightly more approachable, maybe slightly more Merlot-influenced left bank styles, often a bit more accessible price-wise too.
Okay, so that's the cab dominant side. Then we hop over the river to the right bank. Saint-Emilion, Pomerol, different feel entirely.
Completely different, yes. Soils shift to clay and limestone, and the star grapes become Merlot and Cabernet Franc.
So what does that mean for the wine style?
Generally, you get wines known more for elegance, perhaps more upfront fruitiness, and tannins that are, well, softer, more velvety, especially when the wines are younger.
Easier drink sooner, perhaps?
Often, yes. Saint-Emilion is quite diverse, and it actually has its own classification system. Grand Cru Classé, Premier Grand Cru Classé, indicating different levels of quality and prestige.
And Pomerol, it doesn't have that classification, does it? But it's still top tier.
Exactly. Pomerol is small but mighty. No formal classification, but it's home to some of the world's most famous, most luxurious Merlot-based wines. Think real richness, plush textures.
It's interesting that Bordeaux manages to be both this super prestigious, aspirational thing and offer more everyday options.
That's absolutely key to its success in the UK. You have the pinnacle wines, the investment pieces, but you also have fantastic regional Bordeaux, Côte de Bordeaux, those satellite appellations around Saint-Emilion and Pomerol that deliver that classic style at a more accessible price.
And the food pairings are almost legendary, aren't they? Left bank with roast beef or lamb.
A classic for a reason. That structure just cuts through the richness.
And the right bank.
Yeah.
The sources mention game, mature cheeses.
Yeah, the slightly softer, fruitier profile of right bank wines works beautifully with things like venison or pheasant. And mature cheeses, like a good aged cheddar or even Stilton, the richness, matches well.
Okay, let's journey north now. Burgundy. This region seems to inspire a different kind of passion, maybe, especially for Pinot Noir.
Oh, definitely. There's a real fascination, almost a reverence, for Burgundy Pinot Noir in the UK. It's prized for its elegance, sometimes it's quite ethereal, its complexity, and crucially, how incredibly well it expresses its specific origin, its terroir.
Terroir seems even more critical here than in Bordeaux.
It's central. The whole system is built around it.
And like Bordeaux, Burgundy has its key red wine areas, Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune. What's the general difference?
Well, generally speaking, the Côte de Nuit is where you find the more structured, perhaps more powerful and long-lived Pinot Noir. Think of those famous villages. Givry-Chambertin, often quite muscular. Vosne-Romanée, peak elegance, perhaps. Chambon-Musigny, known for delicacy.
Lots of subtle differences.
Exactly. Moët-Saint-Denis often balances power and finesse, while Nuits Saint-Georges can be a bit more robust, maybe earthier.
And the Côte de Beaune reds, are they generally lighter?
They can be, or perhaps more fruit-forward and approachable when young. Pommard is known for more body. Volnay for its silky finesse. Aux-et-Courtin can produce powerful wines, especially from the Grand Cru vineyards there. Savigny-les-Bains often gives lighter, quite charming Pinots.
And that terroir concept, the
What-
climates, our sommelier source really hammered this home. It's more than just the soil, isn't it?
Absolutely. These climates, these specific named vineyard plots, are so important they're actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's about the soil, the slope, the aspect, the microclimate, everything that makes that tiny patch unique. And the British market really gets that.
So the producer, the domain, becomes really important too.
Hugely important. Knowing the producer's reputation and style is often just as crucial as knowing the village or vineyard in Burgundy.
And pairing these wines, they seem more delicate than Bordeaux.
They are. So you think about more delicate dishes. Grilled salmon works beautifully. Roast chicken, duck, where the wine subtleties won't be overwhelmed. Medium cured cheeses are often best. Nothing too strong. Maybe a mild farmhouse cheddar or a younger brie.
Okay, completing our French tour of the Rhône Valley.
Yeah.
A shift in style again, towards something warmer, more robust.
Definitely. The Rhône offers that warmth and sometimes spicy character that really resonates with British drinkers, especially perhaps when the weather isn't great.
Ha, yes. And it's also often seen as two distinct parts, north and south. Northern Rhône first, it's all about Syrah, right? Hermitage, Côte Rôtie.
Syrah is king in the north. It produces powerful, complex, sometimes savory wines, but they can also have real elegance. Hermitage is iconic, concentrated, age-worthy. Côte Rôtie is fascinating. They can co-ferment a tiny bit of Viognier, a white grape.
Really? What does that do?
It can lift the aromas, add floral notes, sometimes a sort of smoky quality. It's quite distinctive. Cornasque is intensely tannic, quite brooding Syrahs. St. Joseph can be a bit more approachable, maybe a bit lighter, especially when young.
And then heading south. Different grapes, different style. Grenache comes into play.
Grenache becomes the star, often blended with Syrah, Mourvèdre, Cinsault, and others. The style becomes warmer, spicier, more generous, you could say.
Châteauneuf-du-Pape is the famous one here, isn't it? With all those permitted grapes.
That's the one. Famously complex, potentially using up to 13 varieties, though most use fewer. It gives layers of flavor. Then you have Côte du Rhône, the workhorse, great value, fruity, accessible. And Côte du Rhône villages, which is a step up in quality, often from specific named villages.
And pairings for these warmer, spicier wines seems like they could handle bigger flavors.
Absolutely. Hearty stews beef, lamb game dishes, they work really well. And interestingly, the warmth and spice in Southern Rhône blends can be a surprisingly good match for some curries or tagines.
Okay, fascinating. Let's cross the water, metaphorically speaking, to Italy, another country with just incredible diversity and clearly a place the UK market loves.
Italy is just a whirlwind of styles, regions, grapes, and yes, the UK has really embraced that variety.
Tuscany is probably a major starting point for many. Chianti Classico, Brunello, Sangiovese country.
Absolutely. Sangiovese is the heart of Tuscany. Chianti Classico, from that historic central zone look for the Gallo Nero, the black rooster symbol needs at least 80% Sangiovese. It's got that hallmark refreshing acidity, firm tannins, especially the Reserva or Gran Selezione.
And Brunello di Montalcino, that's seen as a step up again, isn't it?
It is. It's an icon. From Montalcino town, 100% Sangiovese is a specific clone called Brunello. It requires significant aging by law, 2 years minimum in oak. Known for power, complexity, and incredible longevity.
Then there's Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. Confusing name. It's the place, not the grape, mainly used elsewhere.
Exactly. It's from the town of Montepulciano, not made from the Montepulciano grape common in Abruzzo. It's primarily Sangiovese again, locally called Prugnolo Gentile. Generally a bit softer, maybe more approachable earlier than Brunello, still very elegant.
And with Italian food being so popular in the UK, these Tuscan reds must be a natural fit.
Oh, completely. Pasta with tomato sauces, meat ragus, grilled meats, pizza, lasagna, pork dishes. Sangiovese's acidity and structure just cut through beautifully. It's a perfect food wine.
Okay, moving north in Italy to Piedmont, home of Barolo and Barbaresco, Nebbiolo territory. This feels like serious wine lover territory.
It often is, yes.
Yeah.
Piedmont, right up near the Alps, is Nebbiolo's homeland. And British connoisseurs really appreciate these wines. Barolo and Barbaresco, they're famous for their structure, those quite intense tannins when young, but also incredible
All
aromatics.
kind of aromas.
Classically, you hear descriptions like roses, tar, licorice, cherry, and they evolve so much in the bottle, gaining complexity over decades.
So they need robust food pairings.
Absolutely. Rich dishes, roasted red meats, lamb, veal, game is fantastic, wild boar, partridge, pasta with rich meat sauces, or even better, truffle sauces, and aged hard cheeses.
Beyond Tuscany and Piedmont, our sources mention other Italian reds making inroads in the UK. Valpolicella, for instance.
Yes, Valpolicella is very popular. The basic style is light, fruity, great for every day. Then you have Valpolicella Ripasso, which gets a boost in richness and complexity from a second fermentation on Amarone skins, more body, more depth.
And others? From the south, maybe?
Absolutely. Puglia in the south offers Primitivo, often full-bodied, dark fruit, spicy notes, quite popular. Also Negro Amaro, maybe a bit softer, earthier. Then there's Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, Versale, can be simple and fruity or more serious. Sicily gives us Nero d'Avola, again in various styles, and increasingly the really elegant Nerello Mascalese from Mount Etna. People compare it to Pinot Noir sometimes.
Yeah, Italy really is diverse. Okay, let's head west to Spain, another country mixing tradition and modernity, and Tempranillo seems key here for UK drinkers.
Spain has a massive presence in the UK market, and yes, Tempranillo is central to that. Rioja is probably the most familiar Spanish region for many Brits.
And Rioja has those aging categories, Crianza, Reserva, Gran Reserva. What do they tell us?
They're all about aging, primarily in oak barrels and then in bottle. Crianza has the minimum aging, so it's usually fruity or maybe some oak spice ready to drink sooner. Reserva sees more aging, developing more complexity, savory notes alongside the fruit, good potential to age further.
And Gran Reserva.
That's the longest aging, typically only made in the best vintages. You expect real aromatic intensity, smoothness, complexity, fine tannins. These can age for a very long time.
And Rioja seems pretty versatile with food, too.
Incredibly versatile. Great with Spanish food, obviously tapas, paella, but also brilliant with British classic like roast lamb, grilled meats, stews. It's very adaptable.
Then there's Ribera del Duero, also Tempranillo, but a different style gaining ground.
Yes, Ribera del Duero, where Tempranillo is often called Tinto Fino or Tinta del País. These wines tend to be more powerful, more concentrated, darker fruit profile, firmer tannins than many Riojas. Really intense, and also with great aging potential.
So richer food needed here.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
It's classic with roasted lamb, especially the local licasso. Also great with grilled steaks, hearty beef stews. It needs something substantial.
Okay, let's pop over to Portugal. We know port, obviously, but their dry red wines are getting more attention now, aren't they?
They really are. Portugal has a fantastic array of unique indigenous grape varieties, and the quality of their dry reds, especially from the Douro Valley, is increasingly recognized in the UK.
The Douro, same place as port, but making dry reds now too. What are they like?
Often they're blends using the same grapes as Port Touriga Nacional and Touriga Franca, Tinta Roriz, and others. They tend to be quite full-bodied, intensely aromatic, with firm tannins and real structure. Lots of dark fruit, sometimes floral notes, often quite complex. They can age very well.
Sounds like they need robust food pairings too.
They do. Think roasted red meats, game again, witch stews, strong-flavored cured cheeses. They have the intensity to match.
And the sources also mentioned Alentejo, a different style.
Alentejo, a large region south of Lisbon, tends to produce softer, fruitier, more approachable reds. Often blends too, using Portuguese grapes like Aragonés, which is Tempranillo, and Trincadeira, sometimes alongside international varieties like Syrah. They often represent great value for money.
Easier drinking, more versatile pairings then.
Generally, yes. Good with grilled meats, everyday stews, pasta dishes, medium cheeses. Very food-friendly.
Beyond the big players, our sources touched on other Old World spots finding a niche in the UK. Germany making Pinot Noir.
Yes,
Yeah.
Spätburgunder. German Pinot Noir is really improving in quality and gaining recognition. Often elegant, fresh, lovely acidity. Greece, too, with fascinating grapes like the tannic Chianti, sometimes compared to Nebbiolo and Adriatico.
Austria, Hungary, Eastern Europe.
Austria has the fruity Zweigelt and the more serious Blaufränkisch. Hungary offers light, aromatic Kadarka and its own version of Blaufränkisch, called Kik Frankos, and places like Slovenia, Croatia, Bulgaria, Romania. They're all producing interesting reds, often from local grapes, offering diversity and value. There's a lot to explore.
So pulling it all together, what are the big reasons behind this enduring British love affair with Old World reds? History is obviously part of it.
Definitely. Those long-standing trade links, especially with France and Portugal, tradition plays a role. Also, the perceived quality and the established reputation of these classic European regions. People trust them.
And the sheer variety seems important too.
Absolutely. Within the Old World, you have such a massive range of styles, flavors, weight. There's something for every palate, every occasion, every budget, really. Price and accessibility are factors, of course.
And maybe our food culture plays a part. Lots of roast meats, stews.
I think so.
Yeah.
British gastronomy has historically favored dishes that pair naturally well with many of these structured, savory Old World reds.
Yeah.
And don't forget the influence of sommeliers, wine merchants, journalists. They guide taste and introduce people to these wines.
It really feels like a relationship built on many layers: history, taste, culture.
It does. It shows a deep respect for European winemaking tradition, I think, but also a continued curiosity and just a shared enjoyment of the whole culture around wine.
So we've journeyed through Bordeaux's structure, Burgundy's finesse, the Rhone's warmth, Italy's passion, Spain's tradition, Portugal's discoveries. It's an incredible landscape.
It really is.
Yeah.
The diversity is just staggering. And it speaks volumes about the rich cultural heritage tied up in these wines, something the British market clearly continues to value and explore.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. In today's world, with wine coming from everywhere, how might things evolve? Could emerging Old World regions, or maybe even New World wines made in an Old World style, start to significantly shape the British palate even more, building on this deep foundation? Something to think about next time you're choosing a bottle. Join us next time for another deep dive.